Hey guys, Coach B here. I'm back. All right, I'm going to talk about real food, real nutrition. I get a lot of questions about what's the best diet out there, that kind of thing. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about that. I do have some notes, so I'm going to be checking my notes so I don't miss anything. All right, here we go. So real nutrition, it's not a diet, okay? When I think about nutrient density, I'm thinking about the choices that we're making, and it's going to include a variety of foods, okay? It's more of a lifestyle if you think about it, because when it comes down to it, how you choose your foods kind of should make sense for what you're trying to do with your lifestyle, your goals, and that kind of thing. Okay, so there's really no one best diet out there. You'll hear people talk about keto and intermittent fasting, carb cycling, all that kind of stuff, paleo, Whole30. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to understanding that kind of like the basics of the food pyramid, okay? And I'm not talking about like the Canada Food Guide or anything like that. I'm talking about the foundation from which we build nutrition from, okay? So when I have people ask me like, what's the best time to eat carbs, Coach B? A lot of it, I'm just like, pump the brakes on that, because you don't even understand how many calories you're eating, okay? So we want to talk about things like calories. We want to talk about like the food composition, so the individual macros and the micronutrients. When we break that down, we then go into like the vitamins, minerals, and fiber. We talk about water, and then we can talk about nutrient timing, okay? And then we can talk about supplementation. So when we have this pyramid, think about it like the bottom, the foundation is calories. If you don't understand calories, you don't need to understand nutrient timing. If you don't understand calories, you don't need to understand macros. If you don't understand calories, there's no sense in asking me about a supplement, okay? So it's that simple, all right? So calories, they will pretty much make up 60% of your overall health and well-being, okay? I mean, there's other aspects of this, but the goal is to understand the amount of calories that you need for your specific goals, okay? I know that sounds weird, but that's true, okay? So, whether or not you want to be healthy can determine your actual calories, whether or not you want to lose body fat, if you want to maintain or gain muscle mass, okay? That's going to determine your caloric values, okay? And then from there, you want to understand food composition, and that's going to make up 80% of your overall health and well-being, because we're looking at now the nutrient density of things. Do you have enough protein? Do you have enough carbohydrates? Do you have enough water? Do you have enough fiber, fats, all that kind of stuff? So we really, really want to look at that and say, okay, we have this foundation. From there, the actual individual macronutrients, they only really account for 10% of what our overall health and well-being will be, because at the end of the day, calories are always going to be more important than the actual macros themselves, okay? When we want to dial in like our composition, our body composition, that's when macros start to play a role. But for just your general health and well-being, we just need to understand them a little tiny bit, making sure that we get at least the minimal of protein and fats. Carbohydrates are kind of like, they're out there based on goals, okay? The most asked question I do get is probably about nutrient timing, when to eat certain foods. And that's when I come down and say, listen, it really doesn't influence much until you're like really kind of dialed in as an athlete. That's when you'll see the biggest change in nutrient timing, whether or not you need to eat before or after your workouts, that type of thing. But I will say this, nutrient timing is individual. It's going to be based on what your performance level is and what that goal is, whether or not you like to eat before workout or not. That is really going to be dependent on the individual, okay? Hydration, it's self-regulated, but basically there's going to be there is a baseline in which you try to meet, which is half your body weight in ounces is the minimum, okay? And then for every time you work out, you want to try and probably have at least 500 mils before, during, and after, okay? It really, really is important because our body is mostly made of water, so we want to stay hydrated. Supplementations, or supplements in general, it really doesn't have a huge impact on our overall health and well-being. The only time I recommend anybody to supplement is things like protein, just simply because it is sometimes the hardest macronutrient for anybody to really take in on a regular basis. Also too, if there's deficiencies, obviously. So you don't have to take a supplement, but it's ideal to have one on hand for protein if that's one of the things that holds you back, okay? So basically at the end of the day, we just want to understand that we need to have the foundation of the pyramid. We want to have calories and understand that. So what do you need in order to perform on a regular basis? Are you eating enough? Okay. Are you underfeeding yourself? Are you out of maintenance? Those are the things, and those are the questions that you have to ask yourself. Like you look at your biofeedback, your energy levels, you know, how you're sleeping, your stress levels, that kind of thing. And then from that standpoint, then we can start looking at macronutrients and the individual numbers. But I always say the most important macro is protein, obviously, because it's really the only well, it's the one macronutrient that's going to help with muscle building and that kind of thing, but it helps fill that gap too. It's highly satiating. It's got the greatest thermic effect of food, that kind of thing. So important. Then when it comes down to your macros and your fiber, obviously we want to hit about 25 to 30 grams for women of fiber, and with men, you know, anywhere between 35 to 40 grams per day, and just kind of really keep that consistent, because we don't want to be adding a whole bunch one day and then none the next. Okay. With hydration, obviously just making sure you're hydrated. Again, just kind of, you know, rehashing that a little bit, that water is really important. We can survive without carbohydrates. We can go without food for a couple days, but water, it's essential. And then, like I said before, supplementation. Don't worry about supplements. I honestly think it's the least of your worries. It's at, like, when we look at the pyramid, it's at the top, and you don't really have to focus on them at all. If you guys have any questions with regards to understanding just your basic foundation of nutrition, don't hesitate to leave those questions in the comments below.